my first experience with civilian military combine was in 2013. A group of us met at my house and we did a road trip down to Manhattan, where we had heard of this race that had a CrossFit WOD and then an obstacle course right on the pier in front of the USS Intrepid. And we really didn't know what to expect. I knew of CMC, I knew what they were about, I'd read about the pit, but I'd never actually ran the race. And when we got there, I was a little surprised to find the race was only a quarter mile. Thing was, that whole experience ended up being one of my best OCR memories. And we ran a few CMCs that year. We ran a bunch of them the following year. I ended up doing a 6-mile event on the Poconos, the Camelback Mountain in the Poconos in Pennsylvania. My wife drove down to Virginia with a group of New England Spahtens to run a race down there. We did a couple of them in Brooklyn and obviously in New England, Amesbury Sports Park race. And CMC became one of my favorite traveling events, my favorite non-regional OCR. And really the reason was the pit. I mean, the pit is so unique. It's a CrossFit style workout, but you absolutely don't have to have been a CrossFitter to enjoy it, to challenge yourself in it. The movements were relatively simple. The judges were clear. They explained what was going on. They were usually from a CrossFit box, and they were, educated and would teach you about the range of motion and your standards to follow. And it was scalable. In the very first year, they only had one pit option, but in 2014 they brought in, I think, 4 different options in the pit. And then late into the 2015 season, they also brought out the ability to just do the course if that's what you wanted to do. And then they went away, and they just kind of vanished. And it didn't feel like your typical OCR going bankrupt. If you look at how Superhero Scramble went out of business, people were owed money, people had bad things to say about the race directors and the race management. They didn't do a particularly good job of communication, they didn't do a very good job of refunding, and CMC did it very differently. If you were owed, if you'd already pre-registered for a race, you got your money back. I believe they offered season passes at one point, and then they offered full refunds when they decided they weren't coming back. And I had been talking to staff from CMC, who had ran it before, operated it before, and they all said the same thing. They've stopped, but they haven't gone away. We have lost our jobs, but the brand is still around. We just don't know what's going to happen next. And that's how things stood for a while. And then I got reached out to by Garfield Griffiths, who many of you know from Battlefrog, from Savage Race, from OCR World Championship, and we started talking. And this podcast came about when he told me that, hey, I have a press release coming out, and that's when we're going to be public, and let's talk. So I'm going to cut now to a chat I did. Garfield is based down in Florida, so he couldn't be in the studio. So we did an online session and we chatted a bit. And I'm going to cut over to that now. So enjoy. The first thing, we've talked a bunch. So we're live. So we've talked a whole bunch before. But one thing you never told me was that you're Australian. That silly accent, the Australian accent.
It is. That's what happens when you mix north of England with Florida for 20 years.
I can sympathize. I really can sympathize.
Absolutely.
I go home and they have no idea what I'm saying. And within about 24 hours of being home, my wife has no idea what I'm saying anymore.
Yeah, that's. I need to go refresh my Geordie accent, my North of England accent, because it's shot on it. That actually is one of my biggest regrets, that my accent is gone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, big time. It's sacrilege for a Geordie to lose that accent.
Oh, no. So you can't go home anymore. You'll get lynched?
Nah. Oh, there you go. It came out.
Nah. So how long have you been over here? How long have you been in the States?
Nearly 20 years now. 1998 came over.
Oh, wow. Okay. I was in 2002. Yeah, 2002.
Yeah.
So what brought you here? Let's talk about your background a little bit before we talk about the races. So I've seen on your Facebook page that you've had quite a colorful past. Everything from being a DJ to reality TV, and so what brought you to the States? How did you end up here?
I'll go the sort of abbreviated-ish version is I went from casinos. My first real job was casinos. I was a dealer, ended up being a poker manager.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I ended up working in Istanbul during the Gulf War. We got evacuated, the whole thing there. But that was kind of my thing, was poker. I ran poker all over the UK and what have you. And ironically, they say, oh, he wrote the book. I actually wrote the book in one particular company on poker tournaments and how to run them and all. So,
wow.
From there, ironically, casinos have these weird rules in casinos where, to get on the premises in a UK casino, you've got to do a 48-hour, you got to be vetted. You don't just walk in off the street.
Okay.
So they have a big staff party every year. They open up the bar, close the casino, and everyone just sits and drinks, and all the staff have a party. And what happened was they realized that, oh, crap, the DJ can't come on the premises because we didn't think about that. We can't have a DJ because he's not, and this was last minute. And I was in, just for fun, I was in a very bad Depeche Mode type cover band. So, but I was not scared of microphones, even though I was scared of singing in tune and stuff. But I was. They were like, "Well, come on, you're in a band. Can you we'll all bring our records in. We've got the equipment. They'll give us the equipment. Can you just stand there and play a few records?" I was like, shit, why not? I don't care." So within 6, and me being me, and Mr. does everything 3,000 for 6 months, I left the casinos and I was a full-time DJ.
Oh, wow. So that brought you over the pond and DJing over here?
Yeah, I DJed all over the UK, and I used to run the parties as well. You put the party on, and you do the promotion. Yeah, so I ended up becoming an event sort of early marketing person, flyers and street teams and what have you. And then I did very well over there. Granada, you've probably heard of Granada Leisure. They got the TV net. Well, they owned like a ton of clubs, bars, restaurants. I was their troubleshooter. They'd say, all right, there's a restaurant in Norwich doing trouble. Go fix it. There's a nightclub in Manchester. Go fix it. All right, okay, Wednesday, student night, da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. So I became a marketing guy who also DJ'd. Got kind of stressed out. A friend of mine said, oh, well, I'm opening a club in Clearwater Beach, Florida. I'm going to open up. Why don't you come and have a break and just open one nightclub for a change, instead of like dealing with 15 and what have you. So I came over, and the guys at a club called Liquid heard about this DJ guy that was north of them in Clearwater, and Liquid was the club back then, like the place in Miami. And they said, "I'll come down, and try to play some tracks." Because I played all trance and all that sort of rave stuff at this point. And that was it. They basically said, "Hey, you want to give it a try?" So I ended up becoming the resident at Liquid, and that's when I went, "Oh well, shit, I'm going to stay here for a bit." And that was 20 years ago. And I ended up running and working with a lot of the nightclubs in Miami, tons of them, Space and all that. I worked the first Ultra Festival on Miami Beach. So, and that's kind of how it all morphed into what I do now. Believe it or not, is the marketing of those events. Yeah. After I got out of nightclubs, because I have kids and what have you, it was just not a good idea to be out till 6 in the morning and kind of wasted all the time. So, I kind of switched over, got into this OCR thing, and then I did a terrible, terrible race about 5 years ago. And I remember thinking, God, I could pull a better race out of my ass. So I tried to. And that's why
the Great Bacon Race, right?
Great American Bacon Race was one of mine. That wasn't that wasn't an obstacle course. That was just run. The only obstacle there was, I always say, heart disease. So.
But all of these, I mean, marketing is marketing. Event management is event management. You need porta potties, and you need fencing, and you need staff, whether it's a road race or a nightclub or whatever, right?
Music festival is basically an OCR where people stand still and do drugs instead of like eat bananas at the end. Yeah, same thing. Pretty
much the same thing then.
Yeah.
So OCR. So your first venture into the obstacle course space was that before Battlefrog, or was that actually when you started at Battlefrog?
Oh no, it was long. A couple of years before Battlefrog. I had my own company, Fearless Events. I had a race called the Challenge.
Yeah.
My concept for the Challenge was kind of like Fear Factor. That was the sort of idea, because Fear Factor was huge then. And I noticed that a lot of the obstacles in these races that I did were all kind of fear of heights, fear of claustrophobia, fear of being able to climb a rope. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe that's not one, but so I did that. So I did a claustrophobia one, which was, the tubes. I did the fear of heights. We did the 15-foot jump, like the Tough Mudder, leap of faith. Fear of fire. We did all those, and then I thought, oh, another thing, people don't like bugs. So in my first event, we actually made them eat bugs.
Oh.
Like, and they were freeze-dried crickets, and you can buy them in bags like snacks in California. And they're not that bad. They're all they're not guts and mush. They're like popcorn, like all crispy.
Well, when you tell people they're going to eat bugs, that's
the psychological aspect was you saw them and they're crickets, and people were just like, I can't believe how many people ate them. But that was my first ever event, was making people do that.
What year was that in?
Late 2011 I started, so it was early 2012 when that actually happened.
So this is all down in Florida, and then of course Battlefrog came along in Florida. And they started recruiting everybody who stood still long enough. But
pretty much.
Yeah,
that was 2014. That was the beginning of 2014. I'd heard about them. They'd already attempted to open about 8 months earlier, before the money guy turned up. And I heard them, we're going to do this, and we were going to get 15,000 people at our races. And I took it with a grain of salt. I was like, yep, I've heard, this is when everybody was doing OCR. Oh, yeah, there's 15 OCRs opened a week. So I was like, yeah, okay, well done. And they asked me if I was interested, and I was like, no.
Meant to like badmouth Battlefrog, right? This is all proven fact is they never did get 15,000 people at a race. They never did open 20 races in a year, and they're still trying to get on that wagon. But one thing you did at Battlefrog, which was, I don't know if this is what put you in like the national OCR scene, but was the mandatory completion of obstacles and kind of ramping up the difficulty of obstacles. I mean, that was very much, from my understanding, is that's very much what you brought to the table, right? Was this bigger constructions, bigger builds, more physically challenging obstacles, which we'll talk more about what you've done at OCR Worlds and Savage as we go. But why mandatory completion? Everyone had that, right? That was fairly new.
You broke up a second there, Paul.
Sorry. So why mandatory completion? That's something that Spartan has stayed away from. They've had a penalty instead. And I don't believe anyone, certainly not on the national level that I was aware of, was doing something that was so rigidly enforced.
It was something, to be honest, it wasn't something that sort of, because Adrian from OCR World was talking about it at the same time. Me and him were talking about Battlefrog being, before Battlefrog even did its first event. Oh, do you want to be, a qualifier? And I said, well, let us. And I actually said, well, let me get one race. Let me get the Atlanta race under our belt.
Yeah,
I don't want to come out and do our first race as a qualifier and things go wrong. So let me just get my feet wet. I don't want to be a qualifier for the first one. So we were sort of back and forth. So I don't think it was any kind of light bulb moment. It was more talking with Adrian and a few ideas I had. And it was just, I remember thinking, like, it was more about the kind of police burpees. In my head was a pain in the butt, and I needed more volunteers. So I was trying to get around that. And it just, I don't know, when I spoke, there were people like David Moore, and, there was quite a few people involved at the beginning, always was. And we were all just talking about it and throwing the idea around. And we said, screw it. We're coming out. We're fresh. We're brand new. Let's just do it. This is the time to do it. If we come out doing it at the beginning, as opposed to like trying it halfway through.
Okay.
So that was it.
So it was real big more timing and circumstance, right?
Yeah. It just sort of happened, and I liked the idea, and I thought, you know what? It's an obstacle race. You need to complete the obstacles. If you want to take my money, do my obstacles.
And then as Battlefrog obviously started to readjust their world, you moved on from them and you ended up over at Savage Race. And we've not had a Savage Race up in New England. Savage Race is one that we kind of look from, see afar, and they always seem to be killing it. They've always grown slowly and organically. And you came into Savage, and you're responsible for bringing in their elite wave or their elite competition wave. And I believe Wheel World Obstacle was also your baby, right? Yeah. And I know you're pretty proud of that, but again, you're coming into a race brand and you're changing a lot of how they do, and it's improving them. It's brought them, the people love that competitive wave at Savage, is my understanding. I mean, how was that received to take a race that was growing organically, and while they kind of had the fun factor, they didn't have that much of the competitive stuff? How did that go over?
The whole thing that started, Sam, when he approached me, he said, look, before I started, he said, look, I noticed, he said, we're doing great. I mean, they do like 8,000 people in Florida. Humboldt, they do crazy 5,000. They do great numbers. But they said to me, so how come everyone's talking about Battlefrog, who are not doing those kind of numbers? Maybe we were still doing 1,500 and 2,000 back then. He said, how come everyone's talking, all the media, Battlefrog? He said, but no, we're doing 8,000 people and no one's talking really. And I said, in my opinion, it's a difference between marketing and PR. Battlefrog's PR machine never stops. We're on USA Today. We're doing this, and we're going to be we do these special things like Battlefrog Day in South Carolina because we met with shook hands with all this stuff, which is great for PR, but to be honest, doesn't put bums on seats.
Yeah.
So you guys have your organic marketing down to a pat, your Facebook advertising, your word of mouth. So you're getting Joe Public. You're just not getting the PR. So you need to merge the two. I said, if I can polish up the elite or the pro program, let's boost the cash prize a little bit, and let's do this, and let's give the elite. And I'll put my hand on my heart. I'm not a huge fan. I don't think racers should concentrate solely on the elites. I don't believe in that. Joe Public is what keeps the races going. But there has to be a balance, and that's what I basically tried to bring was a balance. And then suddenly, thankfully, this people started talking about, so the big three, who's the big four? Is it Savage? And it started to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very well received. We really started to push the mandatory obstacle completion there as well. We upped the game on that there too, and it was well received.
And then you go and put something like Wheel World in the mix.
It's so funny that actually that obstacle, the original embryo of that obstacle is about 2 miles from me right now in a playground, in a toddler's playground in South Florida. And it was 3 wheels that were on a slight angle that went on a climbing frame. And I just looked at it and went, if that was like bigger and there were 5 or 6 of them, that would be ridiculous over water. So I actually pitched it to Battlefrog the year before. I pitched it. It wasn't called Wheel World. I'll say that was not my name. I do not like that name.
Okay.
I like Spin Class or Spin City was the one I was pushing for that. So I pitched it to Battlefrog, and it just never happened. We were busy just launching with the first year. So, but Sam and Lloyd were like, this is awesome. We love this. This is great. So I spoke with a friend of mine, TJ Shanto, who's a fabricator. Mm-hmm. Started putting together sketches and how we can do it and make it work. And he's a very, very clever guy. And we made it happen. We launched it. I think we launched it in Maryland, 2015.
That's awesome. Of the year. And it looks awesome. I mean, it's funny because Savage is one of those races that I always say I almost don't want them to come to New England in a way because it's very busy up here. It's very crowded up here. And I think they'd run into a headwind with so many races, so many, voices to pull it, people to pull in and distractions. They'd have trouble, I think. But so you went from Savage and while you were at Savage, you also started on an OCR World Championship. So I've done both OCR World Championships. I think it's race of the year pretty much. It's a fantastic event. Now you were the race director last year, but not the first year, correct? So
that's correct. Yeah, I was just there as a guest the first year.
And then now you're the race director for the Canada, the Toronto next year's event.
Yeah.
And I'm ridiculously excited for that. We've already booked two 20-person houses, and we're pretty much full. We're driving up and bringing the kid. We're making a week of it. No pressure, but the race had better live up to the expectations. So what do you? So the biggest challenge, right, is this is a greenfield. There's no course existing for you to start with, and you're coming from Kings Domain in Ohio that already had a pretty good course that you made better to the side of a ski resort. And I know there's a lot of talk with other race brands about bringing their own obstacles in, but so that's a challenge. So how are you addressing that challenge? How are you going to make the side of a mountain that's greenfield turn that into a world-class course?
I faced a similar issue when we did Battlefrog New Jersey 2014, where I'd been doing races with where basically I always say the terrain is the first obstacle. So let's see what the terrain can do, and then I'll put in obstacles after. It's kind of my personal the way I do it. So obviously, King's Domain had all kinds of hills, and it's crazy, and all the built-in obstacles, which was great. But the issue I had was, say, New Jersey Raceway, flat as a pancake,
Yep.
asphalt in certain areas. I mean, so what I did there, we had a race that was doing 20 obstacles, and I put 54 obstacles in
I was
Battlefrog,
at that race. I didn't get to run it because I had a bum ankle, but we brought down a bunch of people from New England, and the feedback on the 2014 New Jersey race was ridiculously good.
It was one of the ones I was proudest of because that was one of the hardest courses to make interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the trick was, okay, so instead of 20 obstacles, we do 50. So people don't have time to go, oh God, the running. Oh my God, I'm in a flat field. It's like, oh, another obstacle. Oh, okay, look at another obstacle. Jeez, that's kind of
back.
And that's the kind of logic I'm going to bring to Toronto because, yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, the mountain, the whole area. I mean, you guys, people are going to be blown away. This is next level shit. I mean, really, it's like you're in the Olympic Village because there's basically an entire infrastructure of hotels and Starbucks and restaurants. Right. I mean, you're literally running past the Starbucks while you're doing the short course. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Oh, I don't want to run past the Starbucks. But what I mean is people can be sat in Starbucks and see you on the side of the mountain running past them. It's incredible. It's going to be a game changer as far as the way events are.
Okay.
And ironically, we'll come to CMC in another bit because they're doing a similar model now. But it's become, as you just said yourself, we're there for the week.
Yeah.
This is going to be major. So the plan for me is, and I kind of did it in Ohio anyway, because I love obstacles, is it's going to have to be very obstacle heavy, which poses a secondary problem of how do you stop bottlenecks. So it's going to have to be big obstacle heavy because we've got to keep it moving. But that's really the trick is there's no real secret sauce is the fact that we're just going to have a lot of obstacles.
Yeah.
Fast moving, quick obstacles, which is what I very much like to use anyway. I mean, I like the Savage Race stuff, but I find sometimes you get too many obstacles that involve, too many rigs. If you got too many rigs, you start boring people, but you also end up possibly with bottleneck issues.
Yeah.
So I like fast obstacles.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that because I hate the rigs. And if for anyone who's listening, if you after this podcast go over to Obstacle Racing Media and check out the interview Matt just did with the guys from Event 360, the
360 it's 365 Sports.
365 Sports. They're the guys up in Canada who are doing the build. And listening to them and their plans, and they're talking about how they have massive warehouse workshops that they can build all this stuff at. So you've got a lot of on-site support and local support.
Yes.
So I think a lot of people hear that, hey, there's this guy in Florida and this company in New York, and they're building an obstacle course in Toronto. How the hell's that going to work? So it was really interesting to listen to his discussions about their builds and their history and what they're planning as well. So if you haven't already heard it, go check that guy out. And now the reason I wanted to get you on entirely, so that's your background, right? You've come from 20 years of marketing, 20 years of event management, and 5 or 6 years running OCRs and road races and various themed events.
Yeah.
And now, what was it? 6 months ago, you messaged me and said, hey, what do you think of CMC? And I'm an unabashed CMC fan. I have been for a couple of years. I wrote the eulogy for them when they went under at the beginning of
I read it. Yeah.
And even then I still was talking to some of the guys who used to be part of CMC who are good friends. And they'd said, well, they haven't really gone. That they're just kind of taking a break, but I'm not employed with them anymore. I don't know the plans, which is weird. I mean, OCRs don't take a break. OCRs flare out and go out big and leave people with credit card bills. And CMC didn't. When they went away, they shut down their 2015 calendar. They gave everybody a refund, and they said, we'll be back.
Yeah.
But nobody believed that. Yet,
surprise.
Surprise. It's February 2016. And they've poached you in, and you're now in charge of Director of Event Operations, I believe is the title.
Yes.
Which I guess translates to General Dog's Body, right? You're going to be responsible for everything and anything that happens to need to be done with an event.
Yeah.
How the hell did you get involved with CMC? Did they come calling you? Did you see a posting on LinkedIn and apply? I mean, how does that work?
I decided to take a break from Savage Race. It was fun. I was doing my thing, but the workload. I was ended up doing a lot more building, well, and I love building. I love being out there, up to my neck, 16-hour days building. But I only like to do that for 5 or 6 days or 7. It got to the point where I was spending more time on site. I was there for 10 days and then home for 3 days, and then away for 10 days. I have a family, and it got to the point where the schedule just didn't work for me. I don't want to. I'm just one of those people. I don't want to work and work and work, and then my kids are growing up, and I go, "Oh, I was working. Sorry. How was your childhood? Did you have fun?"
I travel for work as well. I feel the pain.
So I was like, you know what? And there was some stuff going. I was like, you know what, guys, I appreciate it, and I've had fun. And again, I've always been one of those, especially even when I was a DJ. It was when it becomes too much like work and less like a hobby, I'm out.
Okay.
If I have the luxury of being in that position, of course. I mean, I'll do anything to feed my family, but I was, my wife does okay in real estate, so we had a little cushion. She said, "Why don't you take a break, regroup, and see what you want to do?" Because of my marketing background, I can probably do most jobs, because marketing's marketing within reason. I can market, Kellogg's cornflakes if it comes to it. So I took a break, and I got an email from Brett over at Mud Run Guide. He said, see a guy from CMC, and I'd heard of them just through being in the industry. He said, he sent me a message. They're looking for like a GM. You interested? He said, because they want someone with marketing and event experience, which ironically is not normally a combination that people have. I just coincidentally had both. And I was like, yeah, send it over, and I'll look in it. The guy sent me the job description, and it was like, I was like, you got to be kidding me! This is like ridiculous. They wanted a race director who was also a graphic designer and a web developer. My marketing company, we did web development, graphic design, so I have those in my sort of arsenal. So I was like, okay, this is crazy. Social media skills, Facebook advertising technique, copywriting, all this stuff. Like, that's what I do, aside from building stuff and deciding how many porta potties I need in a field.
Yeah.
So I just went from there. And that was about the time I sort of reached out to you and I said, so any info on this? You were incredibly helpful, and you led the charge of, these guys are great. They had a great concept. And you were also honest that, they could have done this, and that there was a couple of issues and stuff, which is one of the reasons I reached out, was because I knew you weren't going to sugarcoat it. So I went up to New York, and I was like, holy cow, one of their offices that I met with these guys was in the Time Life building overlooking 30 Rock in downtown New York, Manhattan. I was like,
wow.
Okay, these guys are for real. And I met with the 3 sections. I don't know if you want the sort of history of how it worked, the short version. But, basically an investment company came in to CMC late 2014 with the original owners. That company, that company, and it's no secret, the press release went out yesterday. That company was called Sterling Select, and they are actually the venture capital arm of the New York Mets. So basically, I work for the New York Mets right now. That's basically it. So they're the money side of the New York Mets. There's another section called Teamwork. Teamwork is the second part. They are a labor company. So basically, you say, we need to build something. They've worked with Spahtens and Tough Mudder. They are contractors and builders and carpenters, and they are a national company, huge. So they used to help build some of the CMCs. And the third section is Circle TPR. Circle is a massive, massive company out of Las Vegas who ties it all together. They own technology companies. They do all that, the cash, those cool wristbands at the Disneyland that you put your credit card up. They build that kind of stuff. They do a lot of the Coachella stuff. They put on massive music festivals, Rock in Rio in Vegas. They did that festival last year, and I think they did 600,000 people over 2 weeks. So they're an event company with PR, and they work with Coca-Cola, MGM. So basically, they wanted someone to sit in the middle of all these, in between the money and the labor and the event section, pull it all together and turn it into a new CMC. And that was the position I took.
So these guys aren't getting involved because they see a mud run. They're not getting involved because they see like what the OCR industry currently looks like. And you've given me a little bit of background, and the press release mentioned it as well. They're getting involved because they want to do something different with CMC, right? They don't just want to rent a field, park the cars in one corner, put the pit in another corner, and build a course on the side of a hill. They want to get involved because they see more than that in this sport. So tell me a bit about like what they're planning for the. I don't want to call it the business model, but the event model of CMC, because it's very different to how OCR is going today.
Very.
Right?
Yeah. So basically, what they're doing is they are looking at doing a venue first model.
Okay.
Now, what basically, and this is what they told me when I first went in. He said, "Look, you know, we think CMC is a great property. We love the brand. We love the concept. Everything. We need to fix it and repackage it and get it out there. But we are not interested in selling a $60 ticket. And thank you very much. Have a race. Goodbye. Because these are capital. These are venture capitalists and huge companies who do these massive. We want to think bigger than that. What we want to do is, and I've used the term in the past, and we just talked about it in theory with the OCR in Canada, the OCR World Championships, is making it more of a destination event.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of most places that we use in the industry are these huge fields, we need 300, 400 acres, we need to be able to dig and tear it up, we need parking. You don't find that in the middle of a city. So we need to be, hour, 2 hours away or whatever it is. So they are looking at going to a venue that has an infrastructure. Let's say Foxwoods Casino up in your neck of the woods, right?
Yep, Connecticut.
Okay, Connecticut. So Foxwoods Casino has the land.
Someone's going to correct me on that now, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I think it's Foxwood. All right, well, let's say MGM in Vegas or whatever, or the Hard Rock in Miami. But where it has an infrastructure, it has hotels and restaurants and bars and clubs. It has the land. And we are going to basically, the plan is to sell the event to the venue. The venue will buy the race in a box, call it that. So they will do that. So and ski resorts in their off season, that kind of stuff. And what they want to do is they want to get people in on their off season. They want to fill hotel rooms. They want to get people in the casinos. So that's kind of the model. So one of the things I like about that is that we don't have to sell 5,000 tickets. A lot of these races, you've got to break even. This becomes almost a loss leader. And we're talking to Foxwoods, we're talking to the Hard Rock, we're talking to MGM. MGM is very interested, and they have 11 properties.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 11 properties. That could be a year. That could be a whole year. One event a month. But
national races seasons.
Right. So they're very interested because MGM, wants to basically get people in there to see the MGM brand.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of the pressure off. We have to sell this many tickets to break even, to pay for the trucks and to pay for this, because MGM's like, that's fine, we can break even. We don't care. As long as we get 1,000 people and 400 of them stay in hotel, or 300, and the rest, even 200 go in the casino and spend money there, and they're all in the infrastructure. So that's the plan.
Okay. So
whether it works or not, we don't know. It's yet to be seen, but that is the plan.
I mean, I think there's some races out there that are making their events into destination races. I think Spartan do a really good job at Killington, and now Tahoe with the World Championships. It's a destination.
Yep.
OCR World's destination. Locally, we have Viking Challenge at Sunny Hill, which I don't know if you've come across them. They're upstate New York. They're a destination. Shell Hill, destination. So it's a model that works, but the OCR industry isn't used to that model yet, right? They're still used to grabbing a ticket on Groupon, driving in that morning, maybe road tripping to a couple of states away with their buddies, and then coming home that night, or camping or whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see if it works. Now, I also know that the website currently has no events on it, and this is possibly one of the things. I think we had a conversation about this. CMC having already gone away once, already canceled events once, people are a little nervous that, hey, they've come back, they've made a big announcement, they're here, but where are they? Where are the events? I don't know how much you're able to say now. I don't know what contracts are signed, but what is the plan for CMC over the next 48 months, the next 2 years?
Okay.
For venues. I mean, are you coming to New England? Are you going? Where are you going? Those kind of things. What can you say now? Can you say anything now?
Yeah, I can say stuff. I mean, I was, and I mentioned this when we were talking about the press release. Now, that press release that went out yesterday was more, if you read it, excuse me, was more geared towards announcing that we're back in business. The company's formulated, and these are the pieces of the company.
Yep.
And that was deliberate. I was like, well, we should announce a venue and this, because people are going to straight away say a venue, and they were that, and these guys. Well, this is aimed at this guys. We're going to aim another press release at your guys, the OCR and the CrossFit and all that. That's coming. We are going to do a soft launch of this year. Mm-hmm. We talked about the spring. I think I mentioned that to you, and I pushed away from. I said, look, guys, we're pushing. We're getting into January. If we're going to do this, we don't want to come out. So, let's just launch a load in spring and then suddenly find ourselves backpedaling. I said, let's do it properly. And so we have some events coming out that we're working on for the fall.
Okay. I think that's really smart, by the way. I think if you came out and said, here's our 15 race 2015 calendar,
not happening.
People would go, I'm going to wait for the first 3 and see how it goes.
Absolutely. No, we are going to do, let's call it a soft launch this year, or a soft relaunch. We'll probably do between 3 and 5 events in the fall. They'll probably, I won't lie, we're talking, I know the Poconos was a huge event.
Yep.
The CMC at Camelback, we're in discussions with them. We're also talking, I can't really go into details, but we are looking at a launch event in September, which is almost in the heart of New York. And it's going to be something very, very special. It's going to be a 2-day event. I can't really go, again, it's about getting paid.
Contracts aren't signed, you can't say anything.
But that is probably a week to 10 days away being announced, but that's going to be the big one. But it really is 2016. It's going to be, we're going to do 2 or 3 in the Northeast, as you've said, possibly Vegas. We'll see how it goes there with another conversation we're having. And then 2017, various numbers have been talked about. I'd mentioned 12 to 18 max. I don't want to overstretch. I think 12, with the infrastructure that we have, with the companies there, and hopefully with myself, sort of in the middle of it, 12 is not a big deal. I mean, that's 1 a month. That's very doable for a professional event company. And more than that, you're stretching. Personally, I think you're stretching yourself, and we see how that's happened with a lot of companies.
So, how much of the event itself is changing with a reboot, with a rebrand, with a refocus? I mean, CMC was famous and unique specifically because it had a pit right before the race. So, for those who are not familiar, the pit was a workout, and it was always CrossFit styled. You did a 5 or a 7 minute workout, depending, and it was scalable for any level, and then you went off and did a race, and they were ranked separately, and then your overall ranking was put together. So are you changing that? Are you is the pit changing? Is the pit adjusting?
Well, obviously we know the pit was huge. The pit was the big differentiator between CMC and pretty much any other race. The pit is not going anywhere. No way. The pit is, in fact, with all my research, I've done the main issue I saw with the pit was just some timing and some issues getting people through in time.
Yeah.
And being a race director, it's one of my every race director, it should be your biggest concern. Keep the things moving, keep it on time. That's the thing. Bottlenecks, all that, it's the same thing, whether it's a pit or a course. So I've been chatting with Mohammed. He's at Sweatworks. He built the original CMC timing system.
Yep, I remember talking to him.
We have had a few chats back and forth, and we are stripping it right down. It was very even he said, Garfield, it was very confusing, and I built it. So now we are going to basically use a system he's already built, because he works with pretty much every CrossFit tournament in the country. If
I recall, didn't they just do the CrossFit Games?
Not the CrossFit Games. I thought it was some enormous. He does basically every single one, but he also works. He's part of the infrastructure team at Spartan Race. He does all of their back end. He just took on Ironman worldwide as a client. So these guys, they know events. So basically, we're going to use his original CrossFit software, which everybody who's done it will know. And I use CrossFit, and I know some people I don't want to do CrossFit. I understand that. I'm not a huge CrossFit guy. I don't have the shoulders for it. But saying that, it is going to be, we are doing a race only option as well, which I think the original CMC guys were just starting to bring out.
Came in the very last season.
Right. So we are definitely going to go with that. If you're not up for the pit, you're like, you know what? I want to run a 5-mile course. That's fine. And that's the plan, because we know that people are going to come back, look at the pit going off and say, oh, that's it. I'm doing that next time.
Because this was always the challenge when you first asked, what did they struggle with? It was always this idea that the pit was CrossFit. And if you don't CrossFit, you can't do the pit. And then for CrossFitters, it was always the idea that, well, I can go and do the WOD, but then I have to run 5 miles, and that's ridiculous. I think a lot of brands have always tried to get that mix of CrossFit and OCR, because from the 10,000-foot overview, they seem very similar, right? You've got CrossFit, they're competitive, their time, their rank, their strength, and then you have OCR, and it's competitive and it's timed, and it's so surely they should all work together, and they kind of
think so. They don't know. They do not know. They do not at all.
So it's always a challenge. Like, how do you get CrossFitters to run 5 miles, and how do you get runners or OCR athletes to do a CrossFit WOD? I mean, we know that this pit isn't CrossFit, it's strength, and it's, you know, but how do you market that? Is that something that you've got to focus on? Is that something that you're going to be
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you know, the former owners, they were CrossFit. I think they were certified trainers, and they did that fantastically. I mean, they nailed it.
Funny story, I actually randomly bumped into Sean, who was the one of the co-founders and the MC, at a CrossFit tournament in Connecticut one day. We went up there to see some friends and randomly bumped into him because he would drive around CrossFit boxes promoting CMC, and it worked great. But obviously CrossFitters don't like to run, and, you know, so.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. And the good thing is, as I mentioned, Mohammed, and a friend of Mohammed's who we're going to be most probably working with, Brian. Brian is a certified CrossFit trainer. He eats, sleeps, and craps CrossFit. Excuse me. And he also operates rxcompetitions.com, which is the biggest CrossFit kind of thing.
Okay.
So he's going to be my consultant, because you're right. I want to get it where people, we don't even want, well, legally we shouldn't use the word CrossFit anyway, because they do like to get litigious. If you even,
when I say cross, I mean X. Right?
Yeah, the WOD style workout. Yeah, XFit. Yeah. So we want to push the WOD style workout. People don't realize, most of these OCR people who go to the gym, they do all of these exercises. Yeah. They just do them differently. You go
stuff.
Functional fitness. I tried out that Orange Fitness one time. It was the same thing. I was swinging kettlebells and doing this. And so I think using the term CrossFit can be a bit, oh, it's CrossFit, I'm scared, you know. That's why we have the 3 levels in the pit now. I think we're going to go with 3, which is for people like me who have shoulders of a 900-year-old, I can't be swinging. I can swing a kettlebell, but I can't be, you know, lifting barbells. Yeah. So we have the 3 levels. You can choose which level you want to do. But and the other thing that people do in these CrossFit is burpees, and a lot of these people are not. I think burpees are fairly common in OCR.
I think we've come across them once or twice.
They pop up here and there. So there's a case of just re-educating people to try something different, and we're hoping after 4 or 5 years that a lot of the OCR people saying, you know what, excuse me, I've done a lot of OCRs. I'm going to give it a try. It's just something new, you know, it's different. So, and as far as getting the CrossFitters to run, well, we'll just have to give them a go. I mean, I'm really ramping up the course side of things, because that's my field of expertise. Mm-hmm. And I did get the feeling when I saw it that the course for CMC was not as heavily concentrated on as the pit.
Yeah.
I felt it was all pit. Oh, and there's an obstacle course race. So I'm really.
They had a pretty. I mean, so they had some unique stuff on the course in that they built out a whole bunch of steel structures, which a lot of other vendors haven't done. They all disposable wood stuff. I mean, I've passed the CMC trailers on the way to a race, and they're just laden down with tubes and tubes and tubes of steel. So they did that, but you're right, because depending on the venue, the course side was middle of the pack at best, I think. It was still good. You were still exhausted, but it wasn't as challenging as, say, a Battlefrog 2014 or you know, something like that. So what are you going to be doing with the course? What's your focus? Do you have a distance in mind? Do you have an obstacle concentration in mind?
Yeah. I'm at about 5 miles.
Okay.
Because, you know, because we're doing the race only option, I want it to be very appealing to the OCR crowd. So I don't want to say you do the pit or a 3-mile course. And I know, excuse me, you know, that's going to be a tough sell to the more functional fitness side, but we'll work on that. It's going to be obstacle heavy because it's me. It's just what I do. So we're probably going to go for about 30.
Okay.
About 30 obstacles over that. Similar as I did with Battlefrog. You mentioned earlier, the Battlefrog came out with a slightly different, slightly tougher. What I did there with Battlefrog, just to regress, but I'm going to do the same thing here, is, you know, I did a lot of research on Coronado, where the Navy SEALs train, and I looked at a lot of the military, and obviously the military ones, it's like lots of log stuff, over under, the Weaver and all that, very sort of obstacles. It's not as many wheel worlds in the military.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. Not as many builds, more just raw stuff. Rope
climbs and walls, and this wall, that wall, and climbing this. So that was kind of where Battlefrog's format originally came from. What I'm going to do with this is I'm going to have that sort of same thing, which is a little more raw, which I think will appeal to the CrossFitters. What I intend to do is, here's a new feature. We're going to have a pit stop. Pit stop is going to be a secondary pit in the middle of the course.
Okay, I like that.
It won't be as kind of managed as the original pit because we just don't have the amount of volunteers.
Yeah.
But it's going to be, you're going to get to mile 2.5 and suddenly there's another pit and you have to go in and do more. It's going to be more an honor system thing, but it's like, okay, 10 burpee, flip this tire 3 times, or some pull-ups. It's not going to change your timing or anything, but it's going to be a secondary pit. So there's that. We're going to have the walls and stuff. I am bringing in some rigs. Okay. Because it's it's the way it is. I'm going to do something called we're going to call it the brig, which is going to be, if my plan goes well, it's actually going to be a 2-story rig.
Yeah.
So you go along, whatever it may, rings, ropes, and then the next rope climb is going to take you up to the second level. Then you go along again and back down and along. So we're working on
You're making an awful lot of commitments that people are going to hold you to now.
I said that. I did say allegedly at the beginning.
Okay,
of this
allegedly. All right.
That's my plan. There's definitely going to be a rig there. I'm looking at because at the end of the day, the other big thing that's huge right now is this sort of, and I'm aware of it, is the parkour Ninja Warrior thing going on. Yeah. We can't forget that's really exploding. So I'm want to touch on that as well. Not that I'm trying to do something for everyone, but that's where the rigs come from. Let's call it what it is. The whole platinum rig thing. It's kind of American Ninja Warrior style.
Yep.
And I maybe finished the course. The final thing when we did this at the World Championship, and it was kind of good as a final. Was that quarter pipe? Yeah. Which was American Ninja Warrior style, but we just decided not to kill you guys and do 14 feet. We went 10.
That was good. Doing that in the dark with a headlamp after. Yeah, that was good.
So that's the plan there. So we're not going to go too many, but we are going to have some. It's me. I got to put in some fun obstacles, and I got a couple of unique ones. Yeah, and we're going to keep some of the old CMC ones, but it's going to be an interesting course. And
so to round this out, right? So one of my favorite CMC experiences was running a short course on the pier of the Intrepid. Is that something like short course distance, sprint distance, CMC? Because that worked really well to do a pit and then a course that literally I completed in 11 minutes. And I crossed that finish line and my hands were shaking and I was like, I want to go again. Like I'd never done a short course like that before. And it was a lot of repetitive stuff like climb a wall, climb a wall, climb a wall, carry something heavy. But it was done quickly.
Right.
That's something that you've considered.
Very much so. And yeah, as you're probably aware, with Adrian once again is breaking the mold, and we're going to do this 3K course in the World Championships. So I'm very much researching short courses and how. Okay. Again, thankfully, I like fast courses anyway.
Yeah, so done quickly. You can drink your beer faster.
Yeah, basically that's it. Well, you can take it with you. You got to balance it on your head with an egg and spoon. So yes, so for venues like, let's say, if we're looking at Hard Rocks, looking at MGM Grands in the heart of Las Vegas, these kind of places that we may be talking with, they have to be short, fast courses. Yeah. So they're more likely to be a 5K.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'd like to keep it at 5K, but that's the short course concept. We are looking at doing those as well.
Because to do a bucket carry under the wings of a British Airways Concorde right on the pier in Manhattan, I mean, that's can't
crazy.
Beat that for OCR memories.
and that's unfortunately we have to, as an industry, for certain. I mean, Spartan has their thing, they have their model, and it's great and it works. But for the other guys to keep up and do stuff, or new guys or people coming back like us, stuff like that is necessary. That's why the destination, or the fact that you're on a huge aircraft carrier or whatever it might be. I want to do. We talked about doing some seasons, like CMC seasons. And this is just spitballing right now, but one would be CMC Ice, CMC Desert. So, CMC Ice would be literally a course done in snow at the winter, would find a venue similar to the toughest ice race that was over in Sweden.
Don't pick New England, because this year we've had crap for ice and snow.
I've heard that, yeah. Well, I'm going to have to see where we're going to find somewhere, but that's just ideas moving down. But you mentioned I hate to say the word novelty, but things that are different.
The attractions, right?
Yeah, we want to do a desert one. Maybe we'll find Arizona, and it will be sand. And my favorite thing in the world, and I know you will love this because you're a fan of water. But I want to do CMC water, where there's a lot of obstacles that you're literally floating or swimming to. That's one of my dream courses.
Given enough floaties, I'll be fine.
There you go. Sounds good.
So my last question for you is, so with a race season that potentially is kicking off in the fall, what does your next 6 months look like? So what are you doing for the next 6 months, planning, prepping? What's your day job right now?
My day job right now is we were getting ready for the press release. I built the website, this small mini website that's up, so I had to put that together. Working on the rules and regulations, what we're going to do. We're bringing cash prizes in for the elite heat, which we're not going to call elite because I'm not a fan, but I'll think of some name for it. The very fast heat. And then just putting the race together. I've got a basic course built for my first venue. We're just waiting for, again, pen to hit paper, and then I can launch that. And I got a lot of traveling to do to venues, to scouting new locations. So it's going to be busy. There's, ironically, getting the race off the ground is the easy part. It's just getting it to that point. It's the fun games.
So what message do you want to put out to people who are, that maybe they wanted to do a CMC and they never got around to it? Maybe they're nervous because there's no venue yet. What's your closing kind of message for your life at CMC, the future of CMC?
Right. I understand that there's some, trepidation because when a race, I've seen posts, they went bankrupt. They didn't go bankrupt. They basically took a hiatus. They needed to repackage. The investment behind it is solid, as I say. The investment comes from the New York Mets. So the infrastructure is there. I'm hoping my sort of history or my background will give some, for people who know me, will at least say, okay, well, it shouldn't be too crap. He's there. Fingers crossed.
I think that's the best statement we can come up. Well, it won't be too crap.
So, we are coming back. There's absolutely the events will happen. The first event in September is going to be absolutely mind blowing. You talk about a destination. You talk about a novelty. Mm-hmm. It's going to change. People are going to be like, seriously, this is where they're doing it. It's going to be crazy, and it's going to be 2 days straight. With a possibility, this again, please don't hold me to this, anyone, but with a possibility of a nighttime ruck event between the Saturday. So Saturday event, Sunday event, with a possible nighttime ruck on the course, but on Saturday night for those who fancy it. Headlamp. You mentioned you like the headlamp thing. So
I love the headlamp. And I suspect you're now going to be held to that.
Again,
all the disclaimers. Well, thank you for your time this morning, Garfield. I'm going to look forward to this. I certainly hope I'll be there.
Better be.
Yeah, I'll certainly. Brooklyn's easy for us. I know a lot of New Englanders, they're scared of driving too far. But when we did Brooklyn, we drove down from my house. It was about a 3.5 hour drive. Pretty easy. We go to Citi Field for races all the time. So
there you go. We own that.
There you go.
I think the Mets, isn't that the Mets place? I don't know sports. I'm English.
I have no idea.
I think that's the New York Mets Citi Field.
I'm the last person to tell you which baseball stadium's owned by who.
yeah, that's true. Me both.
All right, Garfield. Thanks for your time, man.
Cheers, mate. Thanks, guys.